How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I just want to talk about myself, my journey. As most of you know, I was deported to Dominican Republic. I committed a crime when I was younger. Not something I'm proud of, but when you're young, you think you're invincible. You think that things can't happen to you, but it did. I was ran the streets when I was younger. I was more of a follower, not a leader. So I got myself in a lot of trouble. Even though, like, I played sports, played an instrument, but I didn't have that family support like most kids. So I went to the streets. That was my support, hanging out, smoking weed, drinking. So one thing led to another. I found myself, I had two kids. I was about 23 at the time. I was homeless. So I was living with a friend, and a friend of mine, he used to sell drugs. So one time someone came, looking for some drugs, and I needed money. A friend of mine wasn't home, you know. My mistake, not knowing the guy was an undercover. He was working with the cops. So I wound up selling to an undercover cop. I caught a secret indictment, that's what they call in New York City or in New York, Long Island. Secret indictment, I sold to an undercover 250 grams of cocaine. You know, that I want to say that was the most, uh, how can I put it? The biggest thing I've ever done in my life that I was so disappointed at myself for doing. And like I said, I was homeless, living with a friend of mine. I needed quick money. I wasn't working. I had two kids to support. No excuse, because there's no excuse. But I chose the easy way out. So one thing led to another. I had moved to South Carolina. Then I found out, cops was looking for me, detectives was looking for me. So finally, they caught up with me in South Carolina. I turned myself in. From there, I was locked up, county jail, for about 2 weeks. No, 2 months. Sorry, for about 2 months. After that, I got bailed out. Stayed. I was living with a friend of mine again. So they wanted me to be an informant, something I'm not doing. So I said no. You know, they was like, okay, you got to go back to jail. I went back to jail till I got sentenced. I got sentenced to 5 years to life. I was trying to get the lowest I could, which was 3 years, but the judge wasn't trying to hear it. They wanted me to, they want to give me 8 years to life because I got convicted under the Rockefeller law. Most of you know the Rockefeller law. If you sell or possess 2 or more ounces of cocaine, you get a life sentence in the back. You'll get your minimum, but the back end is life. So eventually I went upstate December December of 99. I want to say it was the most scariest time of my life, not knowing, not expecting, what was going to happen. So I know I get up to Elmira Correctional Facility. Some of you ever been incarcerated, well, Elmira is at. They call it Gladiator School. I went to Elmira. I got put in the cell, broken window. It was cold. Mind you, it was mid December. And once they closed that door, I knew, like, I felt like my life was over. I kid you not, I cried like a baby that night, knowing I'm behind bars, I'm behind the wall, 30-foot walls, and I'm not gonna be out no time soon. So eventually I adapted. You know, eventually I've met people, can't say friends, but I met people, showed me the ropes. The old head showed me the ropes. I started, even though I graduated high school, but I started taking classes. I took accounting classes. I took, stress management. I took a few things that are required me for part of my sentence, especially you have a drug sentence. I had to do a drug program. I finished that. So by me finishing all that, I got 2 months taken off my time. So like I mentioned before, I got 5 to life. I wound up doing 4 years and 10 months. It reduced my sentence. I got what is called merit time. So I came home, and after before my first year, actually when I was in what they call it, orientation, excuse me, immigration goes and sees you. I never became a citizen. So automatically immigration goes and sees you to see what your immigration status is. I was only a resident. So by me not becoming a citizen, I was ordered deportable. Anytime you commit a crime and you do more than 1 year, you automatically violate the immigration laws. So I wound up getting, they put an order of deportation for me. So at the time when I was in jail, I was on dialysis. I had kidney failure. I lost my kidneys when I was 21 years old. So I'm going to dialysis in prison. I'm going to court, immigration court in prison. I fought my case for like 2.5, almost 3 years, going back to immigration jail, in and out. So after quite some time, I lost my case. So my lawyer, the lawyer at the time, put an appeal on it. So as my time's coming for me to get released, I'm scared because I'm thinking immigration is coming to get me. So they let me out. Come to find out, my lawyer was able to you know, get a motion put in for them to let me out and fight my case from the street. So I come home, 2005. I start working. Everything's going good. I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going to be able to stay. 2006, the lawyer I had didn't really push for me, didn't fight for me. Um, so I get arrested again from immigration for my job. They tell me I gotta go back. So again, the lawyer puts a motion in, they let me out again. So from there, they wanted me to turn myself back in within a month. I didn't. I stayed in the United States, you know, for a while. I stayed in the United States for another 11 years. I stayed on the run, you know. And after a while, I got tired. I got tired of running. I had my youngest daughter, and I was tired. I told her mother, I was like, listen, I'm going back. I don't know what to expect. I left Dominican Republic when I was 8 years old, never came back. And, I left it in God's hands. I said, God, it's your will. I'm going to do this. And I turned myself in. I was locked up in New Jersey for like 2 months before they sent me back. Um, when I first got here, it was like being in a whole new world. I felt like an alien. I felt like I didn't belong here. People see me, you know, so I felt like I didn't belong here. But eventually, thanks to my cousin, he brought me to a call center where I was able to get a job after a month after I got here. And that was, 2017. I've been here 8 years now. And my life has definitely changed. You know, I've now I adapted to Dominican Republic. I learned to maneuver myself ways. I've done a lot here. I could say I've done more here in the 8 years than the whole time I was in the United States. Like I said, I was back home. I was young. I was shy. I was naive. I was a follower. Um, I didn't have the like the a strong self esteem like I do now. I didn't have a good work ethic. I was lazy. But now look at it now, I'm like, I kind of look back and be like, all right, going to prison did change my life. I learned a lot. I became a man. You know, being around other inmates that are older than me, I had to become a man. So that taught me responsibility. That taught me work ethic. So that's something that I've taken along the way. I'm 48 years old now. I've done a lot. Like I said, I'm a self-taught photographer. I do YouTube. I work in a call center. I'm bilingual. It's a lot of things I've learned and done. I taught myself how to um, build PCs, build computers. That's one thing that one thing I do love. I love technology. And like I said, I've had different relationships here that's gone up and down, rocky ones. But my biggest thing, my message is to people that do get deported: don't think that this is a death sentence. You could keep going on with your life if you choose to. If you want to choose to go back and doing the same things you were doing before, hey. But if you want to succeed, strive, you know, my goal and my dream is to be my own boss. I'm tired of working for someone. I want to have something, you know, say I want to leave a legacy. Okay, Junior did this, Junior did that. He changed his life, and that's what I want. I want people to take this from me, that you could, just because you've done something in the past does not define who you are. You know, and with that, I want to thank everyone that does subscribe to my channel. Please share, like, subscribe. I will have more stories coming along, more videos. But I just wanted to share this with you, that just because you get deported doesn't mean that your life ends. Okay, and with that, I'll see you guys later. Once again, don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and have a blessed one.